नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिके। Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 20, the rainy season and autumn, and text 23 and 24. Because 23 doesn't have a purport, so we will just recite and then repeat 24. Jaloghair bhidyanta setavo varshatiśvare Pashandenam asadvaidir Vedamarga kalo yathā. Translation. When Indra sent forth his rains, the flood waters broke through the irrigation dikes in the agricultural fields, just as in the Kali Yuga, the atheists' false theories break down the boundaries of Vedic injunctions. Text 24. Please repeat after. Vyamuñcan vāyubhir nunnā bhūtebhyaś cāmṛtaṁ ghanāḥ yathāśiṣo viś-patayaḥ kāle dvijeritāḥ viyamuñcan. They released vāyubhir by the winds, nunnā impelled, bhūtebhyaḥ to all the living beings, cha and amṛtam their nectarean water, ghanāḥ the clouds, yathā as āśiṣaḥ charitable benedictions, viť-patayaḥ kings, kāle from time to time, dvija by the brāhmaṇas, īritāḥ encouraged. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupāda. Śrīla Prabhupāda ki. So, translation of text 23. When Indra sent forth his rains, the flood waters broke through the irrigation dikes in the agricultural fields, just as in the Kali Yuga, the atheists' false theories break down the boundaries of Vedic injunctions. The clouds, impelled by the winds, release their nectarean water for the benefit of all living beings, just as kings, instructed by their brāhmaṇa priests, dispense charity to the citizens. Purport. Śrīla Prabhupāda comments, in the rainy season, the clouds, tossed by the wind, deliver water that is welcomed like nectar. When the Vedic followers, the brāhmaṇas, inspire rich men like kings and the wealthy mercantile community to give charity in the performance of great sacrifices, the distribution of such wealth is also nectarean. The four sections of human society, namely brāhmaṇas, the kshatriyas, the vaishyas, and the shudras, are meant to live peacefully in a cooperative mood. This is possible when they are guided by the expert Vedic brāhmanas who perform sacrifices and distribute wealth equally. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurnamilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hare Krishna. This reminds me, in the purport, when Śrīla Prabhupāda mentioned that brāhmanas inspire rich men like kings. So this is one great example. His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he invited Prime Minister of India, Mr. Modi, to ISKCON Glory of India Temple and got the biggest, largest Bhagavad Gita in the whole world inaugurated by him. And what happened? He got the mercy of Maharaj, Prabhupada, and everyone of devotees. And he won the election for the next term. So this is a mercy Maharaj gave to Modi. And on the other hand, the pious king, prime minister, politician, they did so many good work of charity. This chapter is very significant, very important, very powerful. And I found two reasons for that. Number one, my own good reason. This whole chapter is hydrological cycle and teaching through hydrologic cycle the Vedic wisdom. This is the whole chapter all about. And being hydrologist by profession, I must love this chapter, and that's why I thoroughly studied this chapter under the guidance of my Shiksha Guru, His Holiness Hanumat Peshak Swami Maharaj. He loved this chapter like anything. And why? Why Maharaj loved this chapter or loves this chapter very much? There's a very great reason behind it. Can anyone tell why this chapter is the most significant chapter in the whole Bhagavatam? Can you imagine? Not because there's a hydrologic cycle from my side, but why? Because, anyone? Excellent job done. Wonderful answer. That's why I brought this light of Bhagavata, because this is the book which was put together by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupāda, put together 1961. Can you imagine? Even 4 years before going to USA. Unbelievable. And why he put this work together? Because Śrīla Prabhupāda was invited by an organization from Japan, and they were organizing a conference, Cultivation of Human Spirit. And Śrīla Prabhupāda, out of the whole Vedic literature, picked up this chapter, which is the rainy season and autumn, to preach to the whole world. That's why this chapter is most significant chapter in my understanding, and in Prabhupada's understanding, of course, His Divine Grace, he brought the whole Vedic wisdom through this chapter to the whole world. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to go to the conference personally, but he desired that this work should be distributed all over the world. So, from 1961 through 1984, Prabhupada's great desire was not fully manifested. But in 1984, BBD took up the task and put this book together. And His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, when he was preaching in China, he found a very renowned artist, Madam, in the preface it mentioned Madam Lee, Madam Yun Sheng Lee. She was a Chinese artist, and all these paintings she made for the book. They are called Gongbi style of Chinese art. And it's very significant because all these illustrations have been put together in the painting. And Prabhupada's desire was that this book and this chapter we should use in our preaching to the colleges. And we should have exhibitions of these paintings. And we should have the discussion, because it's about 48, 49 verses in this chapter and 48 picked by Prabhupada in this book. And broadly, this chapter can be divided hydrologically, because I'm a hydrologist. So this chapter can be divided hydrologically in 3 sections, like the dry summer, first part, about 15, 16 verses, and then rainy monsoon, and then pleasant. Because after the rainy season, it's all nice breezes. In Vrindavan, of course, season changes. It's summer to rainy to winter, everything. But it's always pleasant, like even now, in June, it's still pleasant. Then I studied further in the chapter, and 5 main points overall have been picked up by Śrīla Prabhupāda and his disciples as a whole to talk about. And they are the, number 1, the nature of the society. I will describe each one of them. The cosmos, hankering of the soul, greed and wisdom, and number 5, religion. So these 5 broad themes are covered in this chapter through the purports and through the translations, of course. And when we talk about the nature of the society, we are talking about how the society should be structured. Like many times people argue, you Indians, follower of the Vedic culture, but this is very discriminatory. You have Shudra, you have divided the society. You have divided the society in such a way there is a caste system which is abominable. That's what the people who are not knowing the real essence, Chaturvarnam Maya Shashtam, Gunakarma Vibhagasha, based on qualities and activities, it has been divided. But it has become topsy-turvy. Why? Because in older days, son of a blacksmith will become blacksmith, son of a goldsmith will become goldsmith, son of a Vaidya or doctor will become a doctor, or a politician become a politician, like that, like a Raja, and his son became king, like that. It was the system, which was nice, because it was coming parampara, they will learn, even today it's there. But now, Gunakaram Vibhagasha, many people, many devotees, many Goswamis, many caste Goswamis, they all, and their children, when they take birth, they become doctor, they become lawyer, like that. Computer scientists. So they take those professions, but they are no longer brāhmaṇa, because they are not practicing it. Like one time I was in the toilet and I had my Brahman thread on my ear, and one professor, Mr. Dwivedi, he came to me and said, "Oh, you are Goyal, you are Baniya, why you are putting this Brahman thread on your ear? You are not Brahmana." I said, "Yeah, I don't have time to explain you all of this. That's why I leave you as it is." Because he was not ready to listen to anything. So how can we explain? That's the point. The society divided Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And many times in the West, people argue. You have a very casteist society, you divide, you discriminate. No, we do not discriminate. We can give example like our own body. Head is Brahmana, hands are like a Kshatriya, belly is like a Vaishya, and legs are like a Shudra. All the parts are important, but hand is cut off, still I can work. Leg is cut off, I can work. But if head is cut off, finish. As a Brahmana. That's why Prabhupada said, my mission is to give head to the society, to the civilization, to the whole world. That was his plan. That's why he wanted to establish Varnashram within ISKCON, which wasn't completely done by him, but his disciples have taken the task up, and now many big communities are coming up. Farm communities were set up in front of Prabhupada, but they're now growing like anything. Many farm communities, like Govardhan Nico village or in Salem, and many other places, so many farm communities. Why? Because that's the way to live. And on the other hand, when we look at this, like right now, lot of effort is being made just to undo what the scientists have done to this whole ecological system. Ozone layer is gone, cancers are coming. Yamuna river is polluted, groundwater is polluted, cattle are dying, people are dying, crops are polluted because they are taking contaminated water with heavy metals into it. Who is going to handle all of this? We have a responsibility. This is called corporate social responsibility, CSR. That's why I go to these companies, industry to get money so that we can plant trees. Like one company gave money to ISKCON to plant trees in Vraja. I asked one of my students to take the satellite images of IRS and do a change detection that 40 years ago, take the image of Vraja Mandal, and there was so much forest cover. And now, it has been reduced to like a 30% after 40 years. We took the images, did the change detection, 60% forest, 70% forest gone. 12 forest of Vrindavan, Dwadasha Kanan gone. We have to save our heritage. That's why government has installed UP Braj Tirth Vikas Parishad. And they are renovating all the places of pilgrimages now in the whole Vraja. One Mahanta of Madhuban Maholi Mathura Shir Sagar Kunda, he approached me and asked me, sir, can you please send your students to study this Shir Sagar Kunda, which is now turning into a sewage pond? It has been mentioned in the Puranas, the glory of Shir Sagar Kund. Now it is simply converted into sewage pond. I sent a student, they did all the study, bring the whole proposal out of it, 20 lakh proposal to the government that this could be renovated. So this is why, because all this like rainwater harvesting, green building, green design, green communities. What does it mean by green? Zero carbon footprint. What does it mean? We don't want to give our coming generations a devastated and a cramped environment. We can see the water. What happened because I deal with all these agencies, Central Pollution Control Board, CPCB, and Central Water Commission, all these bodies. We talk to them very often. And then 400 sewage treatment plants are being built all along Delhi. There's so much sewage is coming up. Yamuna is much better than it was 10 years ago because of those plants. I visited several plants. Black, thick, effluent from the industry in Narela, Bhavana in Delhi is coming to those sewage treatment plants. And they are much worse than simple organic waste. They are chemical waste. They were all coming to Yamuna, that black, thick sewage drain, industrial waste that was coming to Yamuna. Now, just clean, clear, white clear, transparent water is coming to Yamuna because of those sewage treatment plants. We have to take care of our environment. We have so many bacteria now investigated, developed, which can convert the salinity into fertile land, which can convert the hay of the crops into the nice manure. We have developed many, many earthworms for organic farming. We have brought a Jagopal earthworm. We named it Jagopal. Why we named it Jagopal is because we wanted everyone to say Jagopal. So Jagopal earthworm for organic farming was distributed to the 5 villages of Mathura as a model villages. And then Jagopal's beauty is it doesn't die easily. You may make it 60 degrees Celsius temperature, doesn't matter. You may make minus 5 degrees Celsius, doesn't matter. It's very strong, Jagopal. And he is being used by the farmers and they are doing this organic farming. We have to make this society sustainable. We have to train because government is giving money. Recently my group got 34 lakh rupees from Government of India just to study how the groundwater is being contaminated by the surface water of the Yamuna river, which is so much contaminated. And right now, when we pump our water here, even in this temple from the ground, it may have heavy metals into it. And we are collecting samples from all over Vraja, bundle, 84 coasts. And all the wells are being investigated, and in a GPS, GIS system, we are collecting all this data, analyzing how deep is the contamination. That's why government is giving us this grant of 34 lakhs. We have to save our water. We have to protect our air. Because simple living, high thinking have been destroyed. This concept has become like cow protection, like in land and cow. That's what like in, because these verses, they talk about like in Bhagavad Gita 3:14, annāt bhavanti bhūtāni parjanya anna sambhava. So annāt bhavanti bhūtāni. All living entities, they subsist, they live on the food grains. Parjanyad anna sambhava. And anna, grain, cannot be produced without rain. Like I was in a conference in USA one time, and I said, no rain, no gain. And everyone liked it. They said, wow, that's true, that's fact. That's a fact. No rain, no gain. Gain means the rich gains, because they have divided the whole state. Like I was a state hydrologist for the state of Idaho. Worked there for 18 years. And then my job was to divide the whole river system into reaches. A gauge here, gauge station here, and that's the reach. How much water coming in, how much water going in, interaction between river and the groundwater. That was the job. So, food grains are grown by Parjanya, rain. And rain comes from Yajna. Rain comes from Yajna, the fire sacrifice. And the fire sacrifice is the duty of the brāhmaṇas, society, the leaders, everyone has to cooperate together to have fire sacrifices, do yajna. Of course, in this age of Kali, Śrīla Prabhupāda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whole parampara mentioned that in the age of Kali, even fire sacrifices will not be able to do. We will not be able to do fire sacrifices because of the lack of the amount needed for those sacrifices, the quality of brāhmaṇas, we don't have that much. So that what we have to do. Śrīla Prabhupāda gave us Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is our plan. We want to propagate this chanting of the holy names of the Lord in every town and village. And why this light of Bhagavata I mentioned earlier on, the most significant book, because our Shiksha Guru, His Holiness Hanumat Peshak Swami Maharaj, he has taken up this task on his hands. When BBT ran out of light of Bhagavata, he donated money out of his donations to BBT Los Angeles to publish more of these. Then he made big paintings with the oil paint on the big canvas. And then he took those paintings to the Ricardo Palma University of Lima, Peru, South America, and did a big program. And he now does doing almost every year practically. And there he put all the posters in the big library of very old University of South America, Ricardo Palma. And then he talked about the cultivation of human spirit. He's carrying on Prabhupada's mission to preach in the whole world, in all the big universities of the whole world, through this book. And we are now in Vraja over here, and in NCR, Mathura, Agra, Aligarh, NCR, we are trying also to do the same thing here in Vraja. We are trying to make the posters and taking out, because people love to see the things. So on each painting, there is a verse related to that painting. Simply 10-15 paintings, you put them on the walls or in the post banners, and then there's a verse, and then you explain those verses. So you have a whole team of devotees, they're standing there, they're explaining those verses, why this book, Light of Bhagavata, which is the summary of this chapter 20 of Canto 10. Why it is? Because it talks about, like I mentioned, 5 topics. The nature of society. Society must be divided in 4 varna, 4 ashrama. That's why there will be no need of old age homes. Nowadays, children, they send their parents to old age homes because they need privacy from their parents. That's rubbish. That shouldn't have happened. And that's how all the 4 categories of society, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, are important, are significant. And they have their own role to play. Vedas never decried, never put down any of those varnas. You can go back to Godhead, you may be Shudra and Grahastha. You can go back to Godhead right from there. There are thousands of examples in the Vedas. So here, in these verses, it has been mentioned that in text 23, when Indra sent forth rains, the flood waters broke through the irrigation dikes. So water broke through the dikes because, and the comparison is, just as in Kali Yuga, the atheist false theories break down the boundaries of Vedic injunctions. Right now, if you go to YouTube, thousands and thousands of people are distributing jnana based on their own concoction. Why? Because they have studied nothing. They are the speakers. And all the devotees and the knowers of the Vedas, the true people who knows what is there in the Vedic culture, nobody asked them to speak. That's why Prabhupada asked his disciples to take big positions, become professors in the universities, and preach to the students, preach to the professors. And when we preach to one professor, and if he becomes a devotee, then we are preaching to 10,000 students minimum. Because the professor will preach everyone in the coming generations. For thousands of students, one professor will talk about. Otherwise, they will teach them nonsense. There is no God. No need to worry about anything. Just do whatever you want to do. They give motivational speech. Everyone is a motivational speaker. What they talk about? Do, work hard, day and night. Motivation. Is that nonsense? That's what all the professors are talking. And I do so much hard work to correct them because they don't want to listen. That's why we have these college preaching programs all over the world run by ISKCON devotees, dedicated devotees. It's very significant. Śrīla Prabhupāda set an example. At the age of 69, he went to the United States, crossing oceans, sickness. Even blood can come from a nose and mouth if you are not accustomed to see life. And Prabhupada at the age of 69. Why? Because he wanted to preach. Preaching is the essence. Books are the basis. Purity is the force. That's how we preach. All those devotees who are involved in ISKCON, why they rise in the morning 4 o'clock? Why they chant their japa attentively? Why they attend Srimad Bhagavatam class every day, Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya? Because they wanted to have purity. Purity comes from austerity. And when we do austerity, what is the austerity? Śrīla Prabhupāda asked for austerity. So simple. 4:16:4. Rise 4 o'clock in the morning, chant good 16 rounds, 4 regulative principles, finish. No need to put your nose this and that, nothing. So this is Krishna consciousness. That's what Prabhupada gave this process. That you preach, Amar Agya Guru Hoye, Taro Ehi Desh, Jare Dekho Tare Kaho, Krishna Upadesh. You need not to leave your job. You need not to leave your family. You need not to give up. Neti, no. Become the sannyasi of Grastha Ashram. That's what our devotees are practicing here. Or that is your purity. That is what is wanted. Otherwise, if we do not rise in the morning, do not chant purely, we will simply get involved or implicated in nonsense quarrels. That is the result. And if we don't go out for preaching, if we don't stand on the street and kicked by 1,000 people every day, we will not be purified. 1,000 people will say, like I was in Portland on Saturday market, and I was trying to distribute books and temple cards. Everyone practically told me, just go away. Maybe 100 people at least. And I went to Nityananda Prabhu, nobody is even want to look at me. What to speak of taking a card or a book from me? He said, Prabhu, you are here. You are not the distributor. You are Prabhupada's soldier standing here, purifying your own existence. You are not the doer in that sense, but you are just doing your duty, what your Guru Maharaj, your Parampara have told you, to preach. That's your job. Who will take the book? Who will take the card? Who will become devotee? That's not who you will decide. It will be decided by Krishna. So that is our plan. So in this text, we have talked several things about why this book was taken over by Śrīla Prabhupāda and his disciples. Chinese culture is Oriental culture, Indian culture Oriental, and many civilizations very old. So to preach to them, because in these 48 verses and purports, Śrīla Prabhupāda gave insight on how our society should be, how the cosmos, how we interact with nature. Water is evaporating from the sea, driven away by the wind, hitting to the mountains, and that's the raining. Like one day, because I was in drought studies division of National Institute of Hydrology as a scientist, and my job was to cover 7 states of South India, Deccan Plateau, including Gujarat, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra. And my job was to go there, and during droughts, because like here, irrigation dikes, so to allocate funds of the government for making dikes, check dams, to store the rainwater so that can be used later on. So that was the plan. And then when I was studying further on the droughts, so like I was in state of Idaho in USA, And I again faced a big drought in Idaho, 1981 through 1986. 5 years of drought, 2 inches of rain per year. So bad. Why? Why these things are droughts, pestilence? Why drought mitigation, short-term, long-term plans, rainwater harvesting, so many things. If we stick to our chanting of the holy names of the Lord, the yajna of this age, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. And we saw the effect. The day devotees put sandalwood paste, pulp, chandan on the deities, next day it was raining like anything in Vrindavan. So this is the power. And we tap on this power. We depend on this power of chanting and serving the Lord. That's our goal. That's how we look forward, like annāt bhavanti bhūtāni. So the living people live on grains. Grains come from rains, and rain come from sacrifice, and sacrifice of this age is Hare Krishna mantra. We have to understand that. And in Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, when Krishna is returning, leaving Dwarka, leaving Hastinapur, so it came like in text 4, it mentioned that Kāmam Vavarsha Parjanya Sarva Kama Dudami. This land and cow in the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira, nobody was hungry. Grain was amply growing from the land. Cows were milking like when they said the ground were moist because of the milk coming out of the udders of the cows. I couldn't believe it. So one time I went for getting milk in the morning in Sundak Road, and the cow from which we were getting milk, the milk was just really practically coming out of her, nipples automatically without touching even. So I felt, yeah, that's right. That happened. And the Maharaj Yudhishthira is saying that the cows were having so much milk that it was just flowing. But unfortunately, because we have covered 5 main points of this whole chapter, the greed and wisdom. So greed is that we have injected so many hormones to the cows in the West and now in India also, so that we can get more milk. That's greed. The mercantile class, they store food grains and they create a situation like a famine. And when people are dying, then they sell it the 4 times more than the price. That's greed. That's what is mentioned here in this chapter. So we need to give humankind. So this chapter talks about the hankering of the soul. We can never be peaceful. We can never be happy with the godless civilization. We have to give direction to the society. All of us who are the devotees in ISKCON, they are brāhmaṇas, more than a brāhmaṇas, they are Vaishnavas. And our duty is to give guidance. Wherever we go, we help people understand that how we should live practically in this world without causing any damage to the environment. Organic farming, organic living, green living, using not too many, like in the villages, they don't need air conditioning, they don't need coolers, because their houses are built with mud and cow dung like that. So that kind of living Śrīla Prabhupāda promoted, that you just live based on land and cow and do not depend on the cars, motors, because Śrīla Prabhupāda said one time, your motor car will not save you from death. Of course, we wanted to use Śrīla Prabhupāda was the practically first sannyasi who went to the West using aeroplanes, and his god brothers criticized him. Hey, you are going to the Malaysia country. You are riding aeroplanes for preaching. Prabhupada said, yes. We will use the whole science and scientific advancement for preaching Krishna consciousness and living a sustainable, eco-friendly life. Like the ozone layer has been gone due to the using of the inert gases within that air conditioning. And fortunately or unfortunately, that layer stays on the head of America, because when Earth rotates, the atmosphere rotates with that. So it's not that the ozone layer is gone from America, now it's on the head of India. No. It's there. Because they have caused damage. Now they're talking. Like one time I was in a meeting and we were talking about this drought, 5 years of drought. Then we needed water because cattle were dying. So like Arjuna used to use an arrow and the rain will come. So the same concept we used at Idaho Power, they installed big guns in Idaho Falls, and they would shoot the guns that will hit the clouds which were passing by without raining, and they would cause rain there. 50 acre-feet of water, 50,000 acre-feet of water we tapped through that, guns shooting the clouds. That's technology, but that was used for getting rains. What is the harm? So that's the point. But the whole thing is how we can, because like we used to study the connection of surface water with the groundwater so that we can keep our environment clean. If there is a contamination here, we don't want that contamination to spread to the other areas of the groundwater or the water cycle. So we did isotopic studies there. So now the government of India have asked me to do the same isotopic study in Yamuna River Basin here. So we will be injecting those isotopic items which we got from Bhabha Atomic Research Center, Mumbai, and the grant from them. And we are going to inject that inert isotope into the surface water and going to get the samples of the groundwater wells to find out if those heavy metals present in the surface water are they contaminating the groundwater. It is happening, but the extent, so that we can put recommendations to the government how we can stop that, how we can do things like that. So we have to use the technology. We have to use our resources, our intelligence, our scientific advancements for the sustainable agricultural and living practices. So I don't know if it has become too technical, but in fact, we have to be technical. We are devotees, not fools. We use technology. We know how to use technology. So thank you very much. If there are any questions or comments, we can take them up. Okay, so I think it was too technical, so we can stop here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare.